Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast. Today we are maximizing mini sessions. So let's get into it.
Welcome to the Beginner Photography Podcast, a weekly podcast for those who believe that moments matter most and that a beautiful photo is more than just a sum of its settings. A show for those who want to do more with the gear they have to take better photos today. And now, your host, Raymond Hatfield.
Welcome to today's episode of the podcast. I am your host, Raymond Hatfield. And let me ask you a question. Have you ever tried doing a mini session? I know that I've tried several years ago, and to tell you the truth, it was exhausting. It was totally exhausting. You try to fill up all these time slots. You got to deal with comments, on Facebook from people like, X photographer does them for X dollars cheaper. And then, on the day of, you have some clients that don't even show up. All of this time that you have, and then they just ghost you after the session, right? It's truly exhausting. So I'm so excited for this. When Phillip and Elieen Blume, who I interviewed back in episode 67, told me that they were consistently making $10,000 in a single weekend by shooting mini sessions, I didn't believe it because I remember when I interviewed them back in episode 67, they said that they lived in a county with one of the highest poverty rates in Georgia, which Georgia is number 5 of the states with the highest poverty levels. So again, to say that I was a bit skeptical in the beginning was just a complete understatement. So today we sit down and talk all about mini sessions and how they're able to have such incredible success and use them as the engine in their photography business. Now, as always, I do save a portion of the interview that is focused on the business tactics and making money with your camera, just for premium members. And as you can imagine, in this episode, we just get into a ton of details. Details like how the mini session sales funnel is built, the one tweak that many photographers need to make to have consistent success, how to turn your mini session customers into repeatable clients who come back year after year after year, and how to market your minis more effectively than ever before. So if you want to hear the answers to those questions and just so much more, you can become a premium member today by signing up at beginnerphotographypodcast.com and click the premium membership button at the top of the page now. So with that, let's go ahead and get on into this interview right now with Phillip Blume. Oh, wait, and stick around until after the interview because Phillip and Elieen actually have some great downloads that they wanted me to give you, and I will share with you the details on how to get those after the interview. Okay, here we go. Listeners are going to remember from the last time that you were on that you were actually a high school English teacher before you got into photography, and Elieen, your wife, was working at Starbucks as a barista. You guys decided to shoot weddings when a friend of yours asked you to photograph their wedding, and then within that year, you two were able to go full-time, which is something that obviously many photographers aspire to do. But in those early days, was your initial plan to just shoot weddings, or was it to take whatever came your way?
Yeah. So goodness, did we have a plan? I have no idea. We were flying by the seat of our pants at that point. And the whole idea of experiencing, the dream, realizing the dream of going full-time so quickly as we did, it felt really good at the time, only because we didn't know the reality of what was going on under the surface. And how our costs of business, doing business, were outweighing our income and all those sorts of things. It's just, we were inexperienced and we didn't know what was going on. And I think that's the story for, I try not to feel too ashamed about that. I think it's the common story for a lot of us as we start photography businesses. So it looked exciting on the outside that, within that first year, pretty much, we both left our jobs. We had to. We were just so overwhelmed with working into the night, putting off so many aspects of our personal life, not seeing our friends, to the point where, you get called up to hang out with friends, and then they call us off and they just stop calling because they know the answer is always no. So we were really isolated in our work. You know what I mean? And that was a hard time for us, but it was at that point all wedding photography. And it just kind of happened that way, I guess by happenstance. But the more we started to get into the industry and listen to the fact that there are, a lot of the kind of rock star photographers and people we learned from were primarily wedding photographers. That was the whole kind of belief system was built around, you have to specialize and niche down until you are super niche in your photography. And there are some marketing benefits to that. I think what I know now after 12 years of building a photography business that has done well, but also that leading to the freedom to build other businesses, is that niche is important when it comes to marketing. So there's this whole side of things that you have to separate out in your brain, where being niche is very important in how you market yourself and how you speak and how you sound to the client, specialized and expert, and they know you're going to do a great job there because you're not just doing everything. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't have to be the case in what you're doing behind the scenes. And in fact, a healthy business, and we'll go into this because it's kind of a part of our story, but we learned that a healthy business is not all tied up in one thing. It's diversified, diversification. Anyone in business understands how important diversification is. And yet many of us as artists getting started trying to be business people just kind of throw that away. Yeah. And so, yeah, even before the days of pandemics and things, when now, I think so many of us realize all of a sudden, many of our students who were focused 100% on weddings, are in a really tight spot right now, because weddings are postponed, canceling. The whole face of the wedding tradition industry and our culture may, for years into the foreseeable future, be completely and suddenly reshaped. And so we're grateful that kind of early on, from smaller, less traumatic experiences, we realized that doing weddings alone wasn't super safe or stable. So we did actually broaden and become a diverse business that specializes in a lot of things, but you would never know that. If you go to our website, it looks like we're just wedding photographers, and kind of in the industry, that's what we've always been known as, is wedding photographers. And what people don't know, and we're going to talk a little bit about this today, Raymond, of course, but in the background, actually the most profitable part of our business that has kept it growing and scaling has nothing to do with weddings. So it's kind of funny to think that you can actually make a really successful, super profitable business without even showing the work on your website or mixing up your brand message at all.
Yeah, that's crazy, because I would think that common sense marketing would be to show what you want to sell, right? So it's really piqued my interest there to hear that, one of the most profitable parts of your business is not even weddings, which is what you would find on the homepage of your website. So how long were you shooting weddings before you decided to branch out into other areas of photography?
Yeah, so and we still shoot weddings. We just now we limit ourselves to, we won't do more than, we aim for 5. Sometimes we'll take on a couple extra. We'll do up to 8 a year, and they're all great, luxury priced high-end weddings. So it's very worth our while, and we love that still. We love the time with couples. But being just a wedding photography studio, just focused solely in that, I would say that lasted for maybe just for the first 2.5-3 years of getting our business really rolling, and kind of figuring out our branding and all of that over those first 3 years, which is a hard time. That's like that time in your business when you're climbing the curve and putting in all of the extra legwork to put your systems in place and working around the clock. And so during that time of just wedding, some of the experiences we had were like crazy stuff that maybe it was a fluke, but we realized that you can never predict everything. One example was one year, about 30% of our couples, so like 1 out of every 3 couples, broke up before their wedding. And so we had a sudden crash in like our numbers, and it was too late. You couldn't book a new wedding because dates were coming up, and we're like, this is kind of risky.
Yeah.
How often does this happen? Maybe it was a fluke, but I had also lived in New Zealand during going to university there. And I had lived in a culture where marriage just wasn't a thing. I mean, most people don't get married. So they'll couple up and have a family and stay together as much as we do, but they don't, the culture just didn't value the tradition of marriage and the ceremonial pieces of that. So I was like that, you look at politics and you look at different opinions on the things, and you're like, who knows how long does that will that be around for my entire lifetime the way it is currently? So we had asked those questions. And yeah, I would say during those early days, we weren't charging as much for weddings as we do now. We were still learning out some pricing strategy and that sort of thing. And so we were more open to just taking whatever came our way. And we wanted to learn everything. And figure out what did we really love? What do we want to put our effort into? So there's a lot of having our fingers in many pies for sure. But I think we believe the common belief, which is that the money is in weddings. And so we kept pursuing that. And what we found was when you break it down to actual hours spent on a project, and you look at your workflows and you start realizing, oh man, my cost of goods can't just be, it's not just one day that you shoot a wedding.
Of course.
It's a day, and then it's followed up by a week of post-processing. It's actually preceded by weeks of emails and drama occasionally from mothers of the bride and family situations and questions and answers. And so actually, all that workload, and then you break it down into how much do we actually net in income at the end of all that. We're making, X amount per hour. And it was something that we loved when we had our favorite couples. It was really a fun process. And a lot of times we had couples or their families who were difficult, and it was like, it's not worth the energy and really the anxiety. I think a lot of us, including myself, have a lot of anxiety building up to that big of a project when you're not just creating portraits, but you're on the hook for catching things in the moment that a lot is resting on your shoulders. So there's pressure there. So it's kind of leading into, I guess, kind of segueing into what did we realize getting away from that would be good to get into. We essentially came to a point in our business at the end of those 2 or 3 years where we saw we were losing money despite our endless work. We had a really hard year personally. Our marriage was suffering because we didn't have time even to invest in one another. And we wanted to start a family. That we had some hiccups along the way with all of that. And so essentially we said, we need to restructure our life. Basically, we need to restructure.
That's a big decision.
And decide, what are we doing with this business? What are our values? Like, do we want to just create pretty pictures and then, time flies by and all of a sudden you're retiring, you're of retirement age, and you're looking back in your life and thinking, what did I achieve? Well, I took a lot of pretty pictures that ended up on, CDs that got put in a junk drawer somewhere, and who knows? That's all exactly. That's all you created with your life. And so at that time, I think we talked about this a little bit before, Raymond, so I won't go into the story, but we ended up just needing to step away and pour ourselves into a personal project to kind of get our heads back together, and did a big personal project that went really well. We didn't get paid for it. It was kind of like we spent the last of what savings we had to do this project, helping kids in the third world, doing sort of documentary photo and video work. And it was so impactful and so effective beyond our expectations that we realized how powerful visual media is, how meaningful it can be, how just world-changing it can be. And so when we came back, it was amazing how that personal project actually connected us with people who were interested in the work we were doing, because they had a heart for the same thing. They shared our values. And we realized that really making sure that our brand was about something important that we believed in was going to help us connect with people on a deep level of trust. And that trust with a capital T really is the number one quality that leads to client conversion, client sales. If people trust you, they want to do business with you, they share your values. So that was great. And that actually fed back into our business completely unexpectedly. The problem was we came back from that project overseas and still had no money. we were literally bankrupt. We couldn't book weddings, and then low end cheap weddings, and then try this new business structure in a year. When the weddings finally came around, we needed money right then. We couldn't pay our mortgage. We could barely buy groceries at the time. And so we decided mini sessions, let's just experiment with a new business structure. And what are we going to do? Oh my goodness. Like, I guess we'll just let's do a weekend of mini sessions and experiment with some business structure stuff. We hate mini sessions. This is the last thing we want to do. We had tried mini sessions once before, and it was a huge failure. And so we tried it in this new upside down kind of way. And literally 2 weeks later, we do it. And we walk away from that weekend with over $8,000 from mini sessions. Wow. And we didn't even shoot that many portrait clients. It's not like it was all about booking tons of people. It was just like huge print sales from putting the system into place. And we realized, my goodness, not only can we apply this system now to our weddings and make our weddings luxury, but maybe we actually step back a bit from weddings and continue doing these mini sessions, because hour for hour, we were actually profiting like 2-3 times more than weddings, hour for hour of work, just doing mini sessions above weddings. So it's been really cool to see now, after a decade, that has not only been sustainable and continued to work, but that we've been able to kind of like tweak it over a decade and make it even more profitable and see it work in markets all around the country. So that's kind of our crazy roller coaster of a story through our business and life. Wow.
So you mentioned there's obviously a lot to get into, but I'm really interested in obviously making money with mini sessions. And you mentioned there earlier that when you first had your shot at mini sessions in the beginning, you failed, and that it was a disaster for you. So what was it that made you think, you know what, we're going to give this another shot, and we're going to put in all that effort again and hope that it turns out better this time?
Yeah, desperation, but
I mean, that's as good enough of a reason as it.
But I think one thing was, we had when we came home from that trip, we put our heads down and realized, when we started our business up until now, we were artists. We didn't even know we were going to start a photography business. It just kind of got away from us, and people started calling, and we started booking weddings and stuff. And we didn't price it right. We didn't structure it right. We thought, we're creatives. We'll reinvent the wheel, and we'll kind of have this successful thing. We'll do it. We won't just do some things differently. We'll do everything differently than everyone. And it will be, So it was chaotic, to say the least. When we came home, we're like, okay, we're humbled. We're pretty humbled at this point in our lives. And we say, Elieen, my wife, we're the Blumes, we work together. We say, Elieen, like, you have a business degree. Let's start thinking about what you learned in college. Like, let's look at what are some of these business principles and financial principles that you sat in a classroom and dug through books and have been tested for centuries, almost scientifically.
That's a wild idea.
They're all, crazy, right?
Yeah,
we artists refuse that sometimes. But it's based on human psychology, marketing psychology, and we put a lot of that into place. And we got mentors, not only in the industry to learn, to kind of go where we wanted to go with our photography, but mentors, almost like life coach style, to guide us into making sure that we knew our values and based our business on that. Achieved our goals. So that really played into it. And we're like, okay, now we have this system in hand that is proven, that experts have shown this to work for centuries. Now we just want to use it in a new way. We just want to use it in a way that maybe no one's used it before, but we have to trust the system. And so we basically, I think that's what gave us some confidence. We're like, okay, it's mini sessions. We know they don't work from personal experience. But let's apply this system, and everything we know, we're just going to put faith in the fact that this pricing structure, this marketing technique, everything should work, is proven. And that, I mean, so we were pleasantly like shocked when the money flowed in that first weekend trying it, but we weren't 100% shocked. We weren't surprised because we knew that it should. The difference was this, Raymond. It basically came down to, we all know what a mini session is when we think about one in our minds. Like we have, it's almost universal. It's crazy. Whenever we teach this, we'll ask people to write down, like secretly, what is your definition in your mind when you think of a mini session? How much does it cost? What's included, et cetera? And the answers on the paper will all be almost identical. Mm-hmm. The same thing if you just go in at the beginning of fall or spring and type hashtag mini sessions onto Instagram, and you'll get post after post, and they're all virtually identical from around the world. Everybody's doing about $100, $150 is kind of the average around the world. Why are we all doing this the same? It's because we look at each other and we copy each other, and we don't ever ask the question of why do we do it this way? We just copy. And so it spreads like wildfire, or more like a virus. Let's put it that way because it's negative. And also, like, we tend to give away about 10 or 15 digital images. So that's included. And it's like, we don't even ask, why are we limiting our clients? Like almost making it like there's other images they're going to like, but you're going to keep those away from them because you're like, it's almost punitive. It's like, well, you didn't pay enough because it's just a little mini session. You only pay $150. You don't deserve more than 10 images. And even if they're like, okay, I understand this is a cheapo kind of product, fine. The client's okay with that. They still don't go away with a great, satisfied taste in their mouth. Yes. They go away with like, this was limited. This was not a full experience. And if Elieen and I have learned anything, is that people don't buy products. Mm-hmm. Russell Brunson says it really well. People don't buy products. People buy offers and experiences. And that's what ideal clients, if you study marketing research, they're called NEOs in economic terms, but the best ideal clients who are happy to like spend money on things that give them great life experience and improve the quality of life. Mm-hmm. Those people, they're not looking for deals and sales. That's too much stress for them. There's a whole crowd that just goes to Walmart and looks for sales all the time. There's a whole crowd of the market who is looking for experience. And if you can sell that, that's where photographers need to park and run their businesses from, because we're not selling a commodity. We run our businesses like commodity businesses. Yes. As if we're selling reams of paper at Dunder Mifflin or something like that. And that's not what we're not just selling paper. The images, the print may be made of paper, but the images on there, and more than that, the relationships they represent and the experience that your client has during a session while they're interacting for their portraits, and how your image then sparks the memory of those feelings. Mm-hmm. If you are able to sell all of that instead of just selling paper and saying, well, my pictures are the prettiest. And you can say something different, like, we help your family to connect and to remember that family comes first every time that you see your artwork on the wall in your beautiful home. And if you sell what your portraits do instead of what they are, then all of a sudden you're going to attract ideal clients who are very happy to pay the amount that you deserve for the time you put in. And it becomes a lot less stress, because you're not always feeling desperate to book every person in your market. You just want to book a few people, in secret, kind of side note here, very open secret, is that they're a lot easier to find those ideal clients than most people think. It's not a huge challenge. You can find them pretty easily once you know how. Once you have those types of people, then you don't need to spend 3-4 hours with them photographing them until their kids are, exhausted and cranky, and dad has lost his patience and just wants to go. Why do we think that we have to just keep giving them more and more time for a full length session? Right. When what you can really do is bring them in and give them just enough time to create the portraits that you, through a system, have learned that they need and will serve them best. Just get those portraits, create exactly what you know that they're going to value and purchase. And then all of a sudden you have a business that is selling artwork, and it's not just selling time. You can't trade your time for money forever. If you trade your time for money, you will sell your life away. Mm-hmm. What you have to do is create something of value that then the client can buy, and you can multiply that product, and it can sell more and more copies of that product essentially, while you sit at home and enjoy your life, spend it with your family. So that was the real change. And that's kind of a big way to describe it. But I think my mind had to go through that big of a mental shift over time to realize how different a photography business could look.
Yeah. And that makes sense, but I still got a few questions here. And I know that, one thing that I'm thinking, and I'm sure that many others are thinking right now, is that you had talked about, there's many people who, just go to Walmart and they look for the best value or they look for discounts. But the ideal client is somebody who's looking for those experiences, is looking for, a great time and something unique to them. Well, then, what is it about those mini sessions? Why aren't mini sessions just for clients who can't afford the full session? How are they related, and how are they different from each other?
Yeah. And it's funny because like some of our students, some of the people in our coaching program, depending, some of them have made the choice to not even use the words mini sessions. Mm-hmm. We always have, and it hasn't been a problem for us in our market, but there is concern out there that I understand. Like if you use that term, photographers we talked about photographers all have in their minds what that means. Yeah. And they're thinking, a lot of people in my market, a lot of customers already have a preconceived notion of what that means. And so I'm just not going to use the term at all. But we still use the term personally because it's just kind of a gateway is how I think of this. So people are looking for mini sessions at a certain season. Often it's seasonal when we do our public mini sessions. We might not have time to get into it now, but we're doing mini sessions all year long. We keep them a secret, which is wild how you can book up mini sessions while keeping them a secret.
Yeah.
But we do publicize them twice a year in the spring and fall. And people are looking for that. So when you promote yours, it catches their eye. And next, we do something which is odd, which is we break the mold. We know that our system, when you put it all together, will attract ideal clients. Mm-hmm. But we know that, interestingly, even ideal clients are usually attracted at the front end in the same way that those traditional bargain hunting clients are, which is with a special offer. And that's just human psychology. So we'll make our mini sessions actually cost a lot less than $100 or $150 or whatever that going rate is. Mm-hmm. So we break the mold. People are like, oh, what's this? Okay, I'm looking for this. This looks like an interesting promotion. Let me check on this. And then they'll inquire with us through kind of a back-end link, a back-end website. It's not even public for anyone to go to. It's very you have to find our promotion, our advertisement, or our personal email that arrives in your inbox, and you feel very exclusive because it's not just available to everybody. Mm-hmm. You take that link and it gives you limited options. It's not just, you can book a portrait session with us anytime. Open-ended. No, it has all of the ingredients to help someone. And this is really what marketing is. It's helping people overcome mental blocks. And we all have these. Like, I think sometimes we just feel guilty, like, oh, I'm not a very organized or disciplined person. I'm always wasting time on Facebook. I'm always doing this, and everyone else is so good. No, we all as humans struggle to get our priorities straight and to remain effective and to achieve the things in our lives that we want to achieve. We all struggle with that. And that's true for our clients as well. So the best thing we can do is serve them by helping them not only see the value in photography, but help them to attain it and get past that speed bump of putting it off forever, right? Mm-hmm. So most of the time people will put it off and they'll look back with regret that they never did it. What we do is we say it's these dates. You come to the location we choose. We're not going to give you lots of options. Where do you want to shoot? What style do you want? No, when it comes to mini sessions, this is what it is. It's a great front end value, and let's just help you get this done. So we're literally like being life coaches to them and getting them past the speed bump. And then once they opt in, oh, I'd like to do that. Yes, I would choose this time on the date that you offered. That's that one Friday and Saturday that you offered, I'm available this time, and they choose the time. And then it starts a series of communication to them. So they're not booked automatically. In fact, we make it a little bit hard for them to book, because we know that the goal of marketing is not, this is something that Seth Godin, the father of modern marketing, says, the goal of marketing is not to attract clients only. It's also to repel clients.
Yes.
So literally good marketing, it may catch a lot of eyeballs, but the last thing you want to do, and I was guilty of this for years, if someone inquired with us, I was like, oh my gosh, like inquiries do not come through every single day. I've got to book this person. And so I sounded desperate. I acted desperate. I tried to book everyone. Now with this system, we get so many inquiries. What I know is that I actually want most of them to disappear. I'm happy when most of them ghost, because I don't want to spend a ton of time with clients who aren't going to value what I do. I want to filter out and discover the few clients who I can spend a fair amount of time with, get a lot of income, and go about my life, not be weighed down by trying to compete with other photographers. So I'm the only photographer in town and serve everybody. I never want to do that anymore.
Yes.
So that was kind of the key. And now, even though the front end price is so low, that system of communication that they're put through, that series of emails that explains to them what the experience is going to be like, what the session is going to be like, and then very clearly what the pricing is like, why the prints are sold separately, and how you can purchase those. And it's all strategically priced, so it's very appealing. And frankly, it can serve anyone of any income level. But it gets people invested in the experience before they've even had a photo shoot. And then those who do commit and sign the contract are absolutely ideal clients. And we'll typically shoot about 6 families per day during our mini sessions. So it's very relaxed. Some of our students do 12 a day. Wow. And we just slice that in half, because it's like, we want to be home in time to cook supper and be with our kids on a mini session day. No more of this like long wedding day type stuff for us. We're done with that. So it's very relaxed, 6 a day. And we do that for 2 days. And on average, for Elieen and me, and this is not to like over promise and raise expectations too high, but we've been doing this for 10 years. So our mini sessions average about $1,200 in print sales per 20-minute session. So we'll be doing, after 12 sessions on a weekend, well over $10,000, maybe $10,000 or $12,000 or more per weekend, which is more than we can make from very stressful, more involved weddings. Right?
Okay,
and
hold on.
Do the math, right? It's easy.
So, wait. Okay, so we're talking about these $150 sessions that most people do, right, for 20 minutes. This is like $450 an hour. That sounds pretty good to me, right? You two decide, you know what, we're actually going to charge much less than this. And now you're bringing home, 10 times the amount of money, right?
Oh, yeah, 10 times easily.
Please, just give me a 50,000-foot overview of how this mini session system works for you.
You are listening to the free version of the Beginner Photography Podcast, where each week you learn how world-class photographers see and capture the world around them. If you want to hear the extended interview with their best business tips to learn how to make money with your camera, then become a premium member today by heading over to beginnerphotographypodcast.com and click the premium membership button to join now.
That is a perfect tip right there, and something that I have definitely made the mistake of doing in my own ads, where you use the beautiful landscape with the tiny little people, because it is a beautiful photo. But you're absolutely right. That is the worst photo that you can use to get somebody to connect with your ad. So thank you for sharing that. What I want to know right now is that there are going to be people listening to this who think to themselves, wait a second, a $1,200 average is crazy. That there's no way that my market can sustain that. So what do you say to those people?
Now, Eileen's in my market that we started our business in, and where we still do our business, has the highest poverty rate in the United States of America. So we know something about hard markets. It's a town of our closest town 20 minutes away is 100,000 people. And the majority of that is so close to the poverty line or below. There's only a small number of people who we can even target and grow our business through. But that's all you need. It doesn't matter how much competition around. It doesn't matter how small your market, how poor your market. If you're serving the right people the right way, you only need a handful of clients every year.
That is incredible, especially because, as you said, I mean, you live in one of the most impoverished markets in the entire United States. So to know that your system has not only worked for you, obviously, like if it works for you, it's going to work everywhere else in the country, which you've shown by the success stories of your students. When it comes to mini sessions, though, one thing that I struggled with, and I know that many others struggle with as well, is that if you're doing such a short session, how do you possibly get enough variety in your images?
Yeah, and this is the great thing, is that we have to sort of step back and ask ourselves a question, which is just like we were talking earlier about, what should a mini session be, what you should include, what are the assumptions we're making about what a photo shoot has to be. And I'm not here to tell anybody like you're doing it wrong and let me tell you the right way. There's actually a lot of open space for you to do it exactly how you want. But you have to ask yourself why first. So for example, Elieen and I create a lot of variety in 20 minutes. Our style, what I do, one thing I am very proud of, I'm not humble about this at all. I'm a child whisperer. I know how to, kids and I are, maybe it's because we're on the same level and I'm so mature, but I connect and I can control the experience with kids. They're like putty in my hands. So what we do, and we teach this a lot to our students as well. So even if don't feel naturally gifted at working with kids, a lot of this is just stuff that we even learned when we were adopting our son. And we had to go through so much training of like how to deal with kids who come from traumatic experiences in the foster or adoption world overseas, and connecting with them. And it works for every kid. So what we'll do is when our families arrive, I don't greet the parents first as if they're my peers. I immediately get excited and wide-eyed and are like, kid, oh my gosh, Jimmy, Janice, I've got their names on my sheet because we sent a survey out before the session. I know who they are. I already know what they're into. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know you really love unicorns, right? That's my favorite animal. I can't wait to have some fun with you. I heard all about you. So I greet them first, and the parents know I'm going to do that. So it's not creepy, right? We've had this communication beforehand through these automated emails. They know exactly what to expect. But man, I'm there for the kids. And I tell them, hey, we have a secret. And the secret is your parents can't hear. And of course they all know this is coming, but and I don't tell them exactly what we're going to do. All I do is get them on my side. I say, your mom and dad think that this is regular old boring pictures, but actually we're going to really surprise them and make them laugh like crazy. Will you help me do that? Oh man. Like at that point, instead of being an authority figure, which is why kids test authority and they'll test limits, and you end up with a really difficult situation on your hand that you can't control unless you try to bribe, and that doesn't work. Instead, now I am in cahoots with them, and they will do anything I say because we together are testing the authority, right?
Mm-hmm. Mom
so,
and dad.
Right. So I'll get this, and next step is to get exactly what I want. I'll say, hey, look, come sit over here. Don't worry, mom and dad. This is just a perfect, normal picture. Janice and Jimmy are just such little angels. Look at them smiling like little angels, and they will smile. They'll do exactly what I say, just as I say it, because it sounds like a joke building up to something. So I get my perfect portrait. I get that, and then we have what we call balloon theory posing that Elieen and I kind of created a book around. But once we're there, I'll say, now I'm going to count to 3, 1, 2, 3, and then there's a whole number of scenarios that we might end that perfect shot with, and it explodes into laughter, tickling, whatever it is, and we run in and get just a number of angles, close-ups, medium shots of interactions, and those, crazy enough, like that one perfect picture may end up being the one over their mantle, but all of those authentic expressions, connecting moments, dozens of little like quick snaps that we take that will never win a print award, those end up filling coffee table albums and other products, and they're just become the favorite images of our clients. And so we kind of go trigger happy between the perfect moments, but we just repeat that over and over again and get as many perfect pictures as we want, and then a bunch of playful ones in between. Some of our students, and they use a part of the system that we also do, but they use it only, and they kind of stay away from the mass creation of images, and they're more formal in their style, and they know exactly what portraits the family wants and where they want them in their home ahead of time. We used to do this by actually visiting people's homes and having a consultation to choose this ahead of time. Now we do it all through our online system. So all you really need ultimately is, like, most of our clients are going home with about like 3, 4, or 5 pictures. That's ultimately, they're getting enlargements of 3, 4, or 5 favorite pictures. And that's what's adding up to our big sale. So if you just get 3, 4, or 5 pictures and you know ahead what they want, so you make sure to focus on that, then you're set. Like, you can just take a session for 20 minutes and get 5 pictures and you're good to go. So you can do it either way. I kind of enjoy them both.
Yeah, especially what's great to hear about that is that I know when I show up for an engagement session, usually those first few photos I know are just going to be throwaways. It's just to try to get them warmed up to the camera. But that little exercise right there ensures, obviously because you have such a short amount of time, that you're able to get them to connect and get photos that you know that they're going to love right off the bat. That's fantastic. That is a great tip. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Changed our world.
Yeah, I would imagine. But one of the big, I think, underlying questions that we have here about mini sessions that sometimes I think, sometimes other people think, is that, all of this, what you're saying today, sounds great. All this about mini sessions, making good, consistent amount of money, is wonderful. Having better connection with our clients, all this is great. But isn't ultimately the mini session just simply going to undercut our regular sessions?
Yeah, and usually it's a great question because it's the question that everyone asks.
Yeah.
I've heard this hundreds of times over the years. My immediate kind of response that maybe kind of takes someone off their guard is, so what? Isn't that what you want? Don't you want to just do mini sessions if they make this much? Like, you can just spend 20 minutes on your sessions. You can ask people to come to you. I mean, most of our mini sessions we do in our backyard. We don't go to some special location. We still offer full length sessions. If people want if they have a special place they need to do it, they want to do it at their home. They have a big family reunion, and they're going to have several families and big groups. And we still do those sorts of things mostly because clients who are loyal to us through our mini sessions need those services as well. And that's full length, different product. But mostly what I want to do is people just to come to my backyard for 20 minutes and get, over $1,000 a pop every time. That's what I want. Now, that said, our business, we still photograph during normal, during normal times. We still photograph up to 8 weddings, really great weddings a year. Only the clients that we want to photograph. Now, how do you know what clients you want to photograph? How you hear people say that? Like, we photograph the best weddings, the most. How do you know? Did you know the people? You didn't experience much with them other than their inquiry when they inquired about their wedding.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you how that works for us, because our mini sessions have led to almost all of our weddings and larger sessions now. So it doesn't undercut. In fact, this is hilarious because I'm so glad you asked that. We have all of our cards and graduation. I'll cover her name so I'm not blasting her on the interwebs. But yesterday, day before yesterday, booked the wedding for this girl. Now, we took this picture as a senior photo shoot mini session. We do our minis for seniors as well. And this was a mini session that we did 5-6 years ago.
Wow. And
yesterday booked an $8,000 wedding package for this girl. She's getting married now, 5 or 6 years later. So that's just one example, that happens to be right in front of me here. But it's literally our mini sessions, because we now have a connection to so many clients over a short period of time. It's not like we worked with 20 wedding clients and that's all we did the whole year. no, we've like every weekend that we choose to do a mini session, we're working with 12 clients just that weekend in a short amount of time. So it leads to so many connections and so many more inquiries for weddings and every other thing.
Wow. Yeah, that response right there of the so what essentially.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, just totally reframed, I think, the way that I look at mini sessions. And I really hope that it reframes the way that many others look at mini sessions as well. Because you're right. I mean,
yes.
ultimately, if you were to, just do say an hour-long session, you could only hope for like a $1,200 sale. Why not want to get that down to just, 20 minutes of shooting? That is fantastic.
Yeah, and you just can't market. You can't market the same way with longer sessions because you can't do them back to back and fill a day. You can maybe do 2 or 3 sessions a day if you're doing, and nobody wants you to just keep shooting photographs of them all day. When you do, they start to wonder like, did we not get some good ones already? Why do we keep going? You could shoot forever. But really what matters is a great experience, which generally takes place, brevity is the soul of wit. Brevity is the soul of a lot of good experiences. What matters is that experience, and what matters is the product. And you don't need to shoot all day long. You stop trading your time for money.
Yeah. When I'm interested to know what is, for you, when you have such a short amount of time, when you have such a diverse set of things that you're shooting, whether it be seniors, whether it be families, what's the one shot or what's the one thing that just either has to happen or you have to get in order for you to consider that mini session a success?
Yeah, I want to get that. To me, it's kind of one simple thing. It's like that standard camera aware formal portrait, which ends up not being the main thing, but it is something that I have to get. And I get that so easily just, at the outset of the shoot. And then it's really, ideally, I'm wanting to get authenticity, because what people want in photos is the same thing I want when I open up this album that I dug up from my family's history of black and white photos. Like literally after my grandmother passed away, my dad went up to Illinois and brought home all these things from her home. One was amazing. It was albums full of photos going back in the family back to Italy, where like the kids had these ruffled collars.
Oh, wow.
Crazy stuff. I had never even seen that. And to look at these pictures and be like, oh my gosh, like this isn't like a fake black and white photo made at some studio at Six Flags or something. This is like legit old timey clothes and black and white. And these people look like us, like they're our family. It's nuts. And it gives you perspective on identity. Yeah. It makes you think, it makes you grow, I think, and understand your place in the world. And that's kind of on a historic scale. But when you just look at the pictures of yourself as a kid and you're reminded who you are in relation to your family and the important people around you, that provides a valuable experience to all of us that we can't overestimate. So ultimately I'm wanting to get those authentic portraits. To do that, I had to let go of a lot of ego. I remember when I started shooting seniors, for example, like this lovely young lady, I was always like, I've got to be cool. These seniors, they're young, they're hip. That's
what I think. That's why I haven't gotten into it.
I need to be the one that they want to hang out with because they think I'm a rock star. Opposite is true. These kids I'll tell you what's going on in their heads because I've learned it over time. They're so sick of all the inauthenticity and all the people at school trying to be cool. They're sick of it. When I photograph a senior, I'm like, hey, listen, I am so sorry. I'm probably going to be a complete doofus because I've spent all week photographing 6-year-olds and I'm a dad myself. And so you're going to hear a lot of bad dad jokes and if I need her to pose, I'm showing her how to pose and just everything. And I'll be completely a ham. And I'll completely make a fool of myself. And excuse me. And anything I want her to do, anything I want my senior guys to do, I model it first. And if I'm willing to put myself out there and do it first, then all of a sudden they know they're in this safe space. There's like, so they can actually breathe. They're away from school and all the ridiculous drama. And they're finally in an environment where like, I'm like a dad figure. and they can just be an honest version of themselves. So I find that like those kinds of tips, that kind of authenticity is what I want most out of my photographs. That's what serves the most value to my clients over the years and actually has purpose. And it ends up being a lot less work and stress to get that if you just loosen up yourself.
Yeah, and that's definitely the type of the photo that I would rather have of my children than I mean, like you said, we have the camera aware photo, the whole family sitting above the in the living room, but it's those photos of them being authentic to who they are that
Yeah.
we truly value the most. So
Yeah.
I
It
know
doesn't
that
have to
I've
be
kept
epic.
you.
It's just you.
Doesn't have to be epic. There goes back to that big landscape, tiny people photo. I would love that
Yes.
of my family, but anyway. I know that I've kept you for far too long today, but before I let you go, is there anything that maybe I didn't ask that you want to make sure that the listeners know or understand about doing mini sessions?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing where as photographers, we get into this business and we realize that photography is about 10% of what we do, and the other 90% is running a business. And so the one thing that we have been Elieen and I have been more proud of than anything is just over our career building community where people don't feel like they're competing with one another, but where we're collaborating together. So that is our Come Unity community. So it's literally spelled like Come Unity. It's the cry of our hearts that we would bring our life, our personal life, our businesses, and our art all together, and they're not competing against each other for time and for a place in our lives, but it's all unified. So Come Unity is an awesome, we have a Facebook mastermind group that's free. I would love anyone who's listening to just come be a part of that group. And then for those who want to really reshape their business, we're coaching for years, even through PPA and other organizations who have sponsored our tours around the country to do and help photographers restructure their businesses or get their businesses going with minis. We were only able to do so many people one-on-one per year. So we have this whole course that I'd love for people to learn about where we can work with you personally to give you our whole system of emails, pricing strategies, and everything to actually just build your business on top of that foundation. So well, hopefully we can connect through Community Group and all the education and see a lot of people, especially as we come out from shutdowns and things, just gangbusters grow their businesses without having to worry about weddings and things like that.
What did you think? What did you think? How would you feel if you could bring home an extra $5, $6, $7, $8, $10,000 in a weekend? If you still want more, you are going to be excited for this. Phillip and Elieen have agreed to show you, just you, the beautiful listeners of the Beginner Photography Podcast, how to step by step set up your mini sessions and how they use sessions in their business in a live webinar with me Wednesday, July 29th at 2 p.m. Eastern. That's Wednesday, July 29th, 2 p.m. Eastern. They're going to do a live webinar on how to maximize your mini sessions. Now, I have a link to join this webinar in the show notes of this episode. And just like the incredible people that the Blumes are, when you register, they're going to send you 3 videos and 3 downloadable tools to help you improve your mini sessions right away. So if you can't make it live, you should still absolutely still register so that you can access those downloadable goods. And I promise you, I will try my hardest to get them to agree to let me send you a replay as well, just in case you can't make it live. I get it. So register now by clicking the link in the show notes. And that is it for this week. I'm so excited for you all to hear what Phillip and Elieen have to share about minis. It's going to change a lot of people's photo businesses. So until next week, I want you to make do. I want you to make more. I want you to do more. And I want you to make do with the gear that you got, because I promise you, it's better than you know. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Beginner Photography Podcast. If you enjoy the show, consider leaving a review in iTunes. Keep shooting, and we'll see you next week.